The moment I became unbreakable wasn't pretty. There was no applause, there was no public victory. It was on an ordinary day. After yet another silent disappointment. I was tired of pretending nothing affected me while, inside, any criticism would tear me apart. Tired of looking strong to others and feeling small when I was alone. The truth is, I was always reacting. A sideways comment would ruin my day. A rejection would make me doubt my confidence. I used to say the problem was the world, but deep down it was me allowing the world too much access to my emotions. I was being controlled without realizing it, and it hurts to admit that. The turning point wasn't when someone respected me. It was when I stopped begging for respect. It wasn't when the world changed. It was when I decided my emotions would no longer be rented out to any opinion. I realized I was trapped, not for lack of opportunity, but for lack of inner mastery. And in that instant, something broke, or rather something grew stronger. Being unbreakable isn't not feeling pain. It's feeling and not falling apart. It's hearing criticism and continuing. It's failing and not defining yourself by it. It's stopping trying to prove your worth and starting to build worth in silence. And if you've ever felt at your limit, tired of being affected by everything, maybe you're closer to your turning point than you think. He learned the hard way that no one is truly trapped. People simply haven't decided to break free yet. It may sound uncomfortable, almost offensive, but it's liberating. For a long time he repeated that he was a victim of circumstances, of people, of criticism, until he realized that deep down, he was allowing it. Stop being controlled starts with a simple question. Who is really in command of your life? And when he faced that question with no excuses, something changed. He used to say he was stuck because of a lack of opportunity, a lack of support, a lack of luck. But the truth? He lacked power over yourself. While he blamed the world, he handed over the helm. And it's curious how this works. No one can manipulate you emotionally if you develop enough mental armor to not react automatically. Stop being manipulated isn't about confronting the world. It's about stopping placing your decisions in other people's laps. There's a silent promise here. No one can break you when you decide to take total responsibility. It doesn't matter who criticizes, ignores, or doubts you. The turning point doesn't happen when the world changes. It happens when you build unshakable confidence based on inner discipline, not applause. And he realized that personal autonomy isn't a pretty speech. It's a daily practice, sometimes lonely. Today, he understands something that you may still be processing. Freedom doesn't start outside, it starts inside. Inner discipline is the invisible foundation that sustains everything. Emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's strategy. And if you stay with me, you'll discover something even deeper. Because the real blockage was never in the circumstances. It was always in the way you interpreted them. Personal experience plus autonomy as the greatest power. He remembers exactly the day he felt completely blocked. He was in a stable job, predictable salary, comfortable routine, and a constant feeling of living someone else's life. He complained about the boss, about opportunities, about the economy, but deep down he knew he was stuck because he didn't have the courage to break free. It wasn't lack of talent, it was lack of power over yourself. And that realization hurt more than any external criticism. For months he woke up already tired, emotionally drained. Small criticisms affected him too much. A negative comment was enough to steal the focus of his entire day. That's when he realized he lacked mental armor. There's no point wanting big results if any emotional wind knocks you down. Stop being controlled started there, when he decided his reaction would no longer be automatic. He began to practice emotional detachment in simple situations like not responding immediately to provocations or aggressive emails. The shift wasn't cinematic, it was silent. He started by waking up an hour earlier to study skills that could set him free. Digital marketing, persuasive communication, basic investing. He read Think and Grow Rich and applied clear goals. He created a 12-month exit plan. While the world saw nothing happening, he built inner discipline. And little by little, that feeling of powerlessness was replaced by ruthless focus. That's when he understood. Personal autonomy is the greatest power someone can develop. It's not about controlling the world. It's about controlling your decisions. Stop being manipulated stopped being a concept and became daily practice. And when he finally left that job, it wasn't on impulse. It was by strategy. But before any external result appeared, something much more important had to happen. He met a guy who decided to leave an ordinary job, with no family support, no investors, no comfortable plan B. Everyone said it was crazy. But what almost no one saw was what happened before the decision. Months of silent planning, saving 30% of his salary, studying the market at night, developing skills in parallel. Stop being controlled began when he stopped blaming the boss and admitted, "If I stay, it's because I chose to stay." And that changes everything. Radical responsibility is uncomfortable because it eliminates excuses. It's not about self-punishment, it's about power over yourself. He stopped saying, "I don't have time," and started tracking where he spent his hours: social media, series, unproductive conversations. He discovered he did have 2 hours a day available. With ruthless focus, he used that time to learn online sales and negotiation. Stop being manipulated also means stopping being manipulated by your own procrastination. A lot of people want freedom, but they don't want inner discipline. They want results, but they don't want the process. This guy woke up at 5 a.m., even when he wasn't motivated. He built a 6-month financial reserve before quitting. That's mental armor applied to real life, strategic preparation. He didn't jump into the dark. He built a bridge before crossing, and that bridge was made of small, repeated decisions. The most interesting part? When he finally left, it wasn't easy. There were hard months, doubts, criticism. But there was something no one could take away: unshakable confidence based on responsibility. No one can break you when you stop outsourcing your life. And maybe the hardest point isn't leaving a job. Maybe it's learning to command your emotions when the world starts testing your decision. He met a guy who earned a little more than 2 minimum wages and said he wanted to become an entrepreneur. But every night he spent 3 hours on his phone. One day he decided to measure his own time for 7 days. He wrote everything down. He discovered 18 hours a week wasted. That's where the real stop being controlled started. He created a simple rule: phone only after completing 2 daily goals. Small decision, massive impact. Radical responsibility starts with numbers, not motivation. He opened a basic spreadsheet and recorded every expense for 30 days. He cut subscriptions he didn't use, reduced delivery to once a week, and directed that savings into an emergency fund. In 6 months, he had 3 salaries saved. That is power over yourself in practice. It's not glamour, it's silent strategy. Stop being manipulated also means stopping being controlled by impulsive consumption. Then he defined a 90-day plan. Clear goal: learn a sellable skill. He chose paid traffic and online sales. He studied 1 hour a day on YouTube and affordable courses. He immediately applied what he learned by offering services to small local businesses. He charged cheap at first to gain experience. Ruthless focus is this: choose one thing and go deep until it becomes real competence. No jumping from idea to idea. The secret wasn't sudden courage. It was daily inner discipline. He created a fixed ritual. Wake up, 20 minutes of reading, 40 minutes of technical study, practical execution, even on bad days. That built mental armor. When he quit, it wasn't an emotional leap. It was strategic calculation. And the most powerful part? Unshakable confidence was born from preparation, not hope. No one can break you when you build your own base. But taking responsibility is only the first level. The next challenge is learning to master what happens inside you when everything starts to press. He used to react to everything: a sideways criticism, a sarcastic comment, an ignored message. And that was it. The day was ruined. Until he understood something simple. Whoever reacts too much hands over control. Stop being controlled begins when you decide your emotion will not be commanded by the environment. This is where real power over yourself is born, not in the absence of problems, but in the choice of response. Imagine a captain in the middle of a storm. He doesn't control the wind. He doesn't control the waves. He controls the helm. That's the most honest metaphor for emotional detachment. It's not coldness, it's stability. He started applying this practically. When he received criticism, he created the 10-minute rule. He didn't respond in the heat of emotion. He took a deep breath, walked, came back later. Small pause, big difference. Mental armor is built in these details. Once in a meeting, he was confronted unfairly by a colleague. In the past, he would have reacted immediately. This time, he listened in silence, wrote down the points, and responded only with what was factual. No personal attack. Result? The tension dropped. Ruthless focus on the objective. Solve the problem, not win the ego. Stop being manipulated is also this. Not letting someone provoke your insecurity to destabilize you. Emotional control isn't suppressing feeling, it's directing energy. He started training this daily with simple practices. 5 minutes of mindful breathing upon waking. Physical exercise 3 times a week. Reducing caffeine on stressful days. Inner discipline creates biological stability. And when you master your reaction, something curious happens. Unshakable confidence begins to arise naturally, because no one can break you when you don't break inside. But the world will still try to test you with external opinions. And that's when the game changes level. He met a musician who almost quit before the first album. Every week someone said that it doesn't make money, that he should look for something safer. At first, every opinion hurt. He tried to please, explain, justify, until he realized he was trying to stop being controlled by other people's expectations. And while he sought approval, he lost power over yourself, because the focus left the work and went to validation. One day he made a practical decision. He stopped sharing plans with people who weren't building anything similar. He created a tight circle of 3 people who truly understood the process. The rest? Strategic silence. Emotional detachment applied to other people's opinions. This isn't arrogance, it's mental protection. Mental armor means filtering voices. Not every criticism deserves a stage in your head. The musician began to work with ruthless focus. He set a clear goal. Compose 1 song per week for a year. No arguing on social media, no clapping back at comments, just produce. After 52 songs, he wasn't the same artist. Consistency did more for him than any online argument ever could. Stop being manipulated is also not entering unproductive debates that drain energy. In practice, this can mean something simple for you. If you want to study for an exam, stop announcing every step. If you want to change careers, talk less and execute more. Inner discipline includes learning to conserve energy. Unshakable confidence is born when your self-esteem depends on progress, not opinion. Because no one can break you when your identity isn't in external approval. But there's a detail that separates those who start from those who finish, and it's in how you face daily consistency. He met a writer who decided to produce a book, but did something curious. Instead of waiting for divine inspiration, he set a simple goal: 500 words a day, every day, for a year. No drama, no perfectionism. Some days it flowed, others were painful. But he understood that stop being controlled by mood was essential. Motivation fluctuates, inner discipline sustains. At the end of 365 days, he had more than 180,000 words written. Not because he was a genius, because he was consistent. Ruthless focus applied to a single repeated task creates results that become almost inevitable. A lot of people freeze waiting for the perfect moment. But perfection is an elegant trap of procrastination. Stop being manipulated by your own expectations is an act of maturity. In practice, this can mean something extremely simple for you. 30 minutes of study per day for a year is more powerful than occasional 5-hour marathons. Want to learn English? Use apps like Duolingo daily, read 5 pages a day, listen to 10 minutes of podcast. Emotional detachment helps here, not attaching yourself to the performance of one bad day. Mental armor means continuing even when the day was mediocre. Unshakable confidence is born when you prove to yourself that you can do what you promise. It's not about explosive intensity, it's about strategic repetition. Power over yourself is built in everyday life, not in spectacle. And when everything starts collapsing around you, criticism, difficulties, setbacks, the only thing that sustains you is consistency, because keeping focus when everything falls is an even deeper test. He has lived through moments when it felt like everything was collapsing at the same time. Financial problems, family criticism, projects going wrong. The feeling was absolute chaos. In the past, this would have been a reason to quit. But he learned that stop being controlled by circumstances is a daily choice. External storm doesn't have to become internal storm. Imagine building a bridge over an abyss. You don't build it by jumping straight to the other side. You place one beam at a time, even when it's windy, even when people doubt you. Ruthless focus is this. Keep placing one piece per day, even without seeing the complete result yet. Emotional detachment helps you not dramatize every obstacle as if it were the end of the world. In one of the worst periods of his life, he decided to create a simple rule. Regardless of the chaos, 3 essential tasks would be done every day. Only 3. Nothing heroic. 1 related to income, 1 to health, 1 to learning. That structure created mental armor. Stop being manipulated by fear requires consistent minimum action. Small daily wins keep the mind stable. Unshakable confidence isn't born when everything goes right. It's born when you keep going even when it goes wrong. Inner discipline prevents a momentary fall from becoming a definitive abandonment. No one can break you when you understand that focus isn't emotion, it's commitment. But keeping focus requires something even deeper. Trusting the process when results still haven't appeared. He tried to learn English 3 times and quit the first 2. Always the same story. Excitement in the first weeks, then frustration for not being fluent. Until he understood he was a victim of immediate expectation. Stop being controlled by anxiety for results is essential. No solid skill is born from hurry. Power over yourself is accepting that real growth is gradual. On the 3rd attempt, he changed the strategy. No unrealistic goals like become fluent in 6 months. He established something simple, 20 minutes a day, every day. He used apps like Duolingo, watched short YouTube videos in English, wrote down 5 new words daily. Emotional detachment here means not judging yourself for mistakes. Making mistakes is part of the process, not proof of incapacity. After 3 months, he wasn't fluent, but he already understood far more than before. After a year, he could have conversations. Mental armor is built when you keep going even without external applause. Stop being manipulated by comparison is also crucial. Each person has a different rhythm. Ruthless focus on your own progress eliminates unnecessary distractions. Unshakable confidence comes from repeated practice, not from compliments. Inner discipline sustains you when the initial enthusiasm disappears. No one can break you when your motivation doesn't depend on immediate validation. But there's something even deeper than trusting the process. There is a silent battle happening inside you every single day. It took him years to understand that the real enemy wasn't the market, nor criticism, nor circumstances. It was his own mind. Repetitive thoughts like, I'm not capable, it's not the time, maybe later. Stop being controlled starts when you identify these inner voices and decide not to obey automatically. The hardest battle was never external, it was always mental. He began to treat the mind like a piece of land. If you don't cultivate it, weeds grow. Comparisons, insecurities, fear. So he created a daily mental cultivation ritual. 10 minutes of strategic reading, books like Think and Grow Rich, 5 minutes of goal visualization and physical exercise 3 times a week. Inner discipline isn't only productive, it's psychological. You train your brain to obey your objectives. In moments of intense doubt, he wrote on a piece of paper, "What is the minimum action I can take right now? and he executed it, even if small. That is power over yourself. Mental armor is strengthened through practical action, not just positive thinking. Stop being manipulated by your own insecurity requires confronting discomfort, not running from it. Unshakable confidence isn't born from the absence of fear, but from repeated courage. Emotional detachment helps you observe thoughts without identifying with them. No one can break you when you master the inner field. Because when you win this silent battle, something changes permanently. And that's when the whole journey starts to make sense. He realized that nothing he learned was about controlling the world. It was about building power over yourself. Radical responsibility eliminated excuses. Emotional control prevented impulsive reactions. Consistency defeated perfectionism. Focus overcame chaos. And trusting the process dissolved anxiety for immediate results. Stop being controlled stopped being a phrase and became a lifestyle. Looking back, he understood that each small daily practice was a layer of mental armor. There was no magical transformation, there was strategic repetition. Emotional detachment allowed criticism not to derail him. Ruthless focus kept his steps firm even when the ground felt unstable. Stop being manipulated was, in practice, stopping negotiations with his own weaknesses. Maybe you're reading this now with a mix of hope and doubt. He's been there. He's felt the weight of not knowing if he could do it. But the truth is simple and direct. Unshakable confidence isn't born ready. It is built. No one can break you when you decide to act even with fear. Inner discipline is what turns intention into reality. And if there's something that connects all of this, it's daily application. It's not what you understand today that changes your life. It's what you practice tomorrow morning when no one is watching. Break free begins in the small, invisible decisions. And now that you have clarity, the question is, will you apply it, or will you just agree with it? He usually says something simple. Knowledge that doesn't become action becomes mental weight. You already know what you need to do. You already understand that stop being controlled starts with small daily decisions. You already realize that stop being manipulated requires mental armor, inner discipline, and emotional detachment. The question now isn't whether it works. The question is whether you will apply it. If you truly want to break free, you need to go deeper. Because building unshakable confidence doesn't happen by accident. It's a conscious project. No one can break you when you decide to strengthen your mind intentionally. And that's exactly why the next step is fundamental. If you want to go deeper, start with the next video. How to build an unshakable mindset in 30 days. There you'll find a structured plan, step by step, to develop power over yourself in a practical and strategic way. No empty motivation, just method, practice, and execution. Now let me ask you, will you keep consuming content or will you take control? If this content made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because here, the mission is clear. Strengthen your mind until no one can break you. Now let me ask you something, with total sincerity. Are you going to keep saying you want to change? Or are you going to start acting like someone who has already decided to be unbreakable? You heard about radical responsibility, about emotional control, about consistency, about defeating your own mind. But none of that means absolutely anything if tomorrow you wake up and repeat the same patterns. Knowledge without application is a comfortable illusion, and most people prefer to feel inspired than disciplined. Being unbreakable isn't about never falling. It's about falling and not negotiating with your own weakness. It's about building every day a mind that doesn't sell itself for approval, that doesn't fall apart from criticism, that doesn't sabotage itself out of fear. The question is simple. Are you willing to pay the price of your own evolution? How many times have you already felt stuck? How many opportunities have you let pass out of fear of judgment? Who would you be a year from now if you started applying everything you learned here today? Think about that seriously, because your turning point can start with a single decision. If this content awakened something in you, then don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep strengthening your mind with me. The next level of your life depends on what you decide to do now.